Are we live? Are we recording? Yes, we are recording. Hi there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Great to be back with you. My name is Sue Schoning. I'm from the Soul Lighthouse. Today, I wanted to get together with you to talk through this very important phase that we are going into, this energy that I call the snake of transformation. It is happening today on the 7th of March, and it's actually happening around about 7 p.m. Central European time. So if you're tuning in live, it's happening as we're speaking. This energy is so significant. It is going to be with us for the next 18 months. And so it's something that we need to know what it's about, and we need to know what it's indicating. And we also need to know how to leverage this energy. I firmly believe that if we can understand what the energy is supporting at any given moment in time, where the energy is flowing, what it is indicating, what it's not indicating, if we can work with that, if we can leverage that it is the difference really between swimming downstream and getting to where we need to go with effortless ease, because the water, the flow of the energy is carrying us there and doing a lot of work, and trying to get somewhere upstream and exhausting ourselves in the process and not getting very far because we're swimming against the current. So here we are in this space. 2019 has exploded into being. It has been busy on every single level. Everybody I speak to has kind of said, oh my word, could it get any busier? Well, here's the news. Yes, it is. And today is where we find ourselves ramping up a whole nother level. It's kind of like 2018 saw us stalled on the side of the highway in our little scrappy, crappy car, which we just couldn't get going. And then somebody pulled up and said, here, you can drive my Golf Polo, and it's great, and it's fantastic, and it's new, but it's not a top-of-the-range car. And we got into the car, and we now got traction as we finished 2018. And we were really enjoying driving our little Polo around the highway as we started off this year. Well, where are we now? It's like we are fuel injected, turbo boosted, and we are ramping up another notch. And this energy is going to be with us for the next 18 months. Pace ourselves is probably what we need to do. We need to really, really pace ourselves, because things are accelerating, things are moving, and things are only going to get busier and busier. So what do I mean when I talk about a Rahu Ketu transit? What are Rahu and Ketu? And in Vedic astrology, we talk about them as shadow planets, but the reality is they're not planets at all. What they are is we call them as lunar nodes, and they are always polarizing, and they are always 180 degrees in opposition, and they work in tandem. We have the north node, which is Rahu, and we have the south node, which is Ketu, and they work together and they exert opposite effects on us. So here is where we are moving into as we go through this particular Rahu Ketu transit. In Vedic astrology, we talk about it as the snake, and this is why I'm calling it the snake of transformation. The head of the snake, that north node, that north lunar node, is known as the head of the snake. And by extension, Ketu is known as the tail of the snake. Now, because these two are always working in tandem, because they are always working together, we have the head of the snake and we have the tail of the snake, and where the head leads, the tail always follows. So we want to know what is happening with this snake as we go through 2018. So what does Rahu actually govern? If we talk about this energy, this Rahu energy, what am I actually talking about? Well, Rahu is quite a materialistic energy. It really, really enjoys worldly comforts and worldly gains. It is all about materialism. The more money, the better. And it is gripped by making money overtly and shadow-wise. So making money legally and making money underhand, Rahu doesn't care. It's all about finding that material wealth. It is the governing force of our ego and of our mental body. It thrives on power and opportunity, and it is fast moving, it's aggressive, and it really, really likes to move into sudden action. It is thrilled when it gets fame and fortune. It wants to be recognized, and sometimes it can be very brutal and it can be very harsh with the way it operates. Now, you know, of course, when I'm talking material gains, there's nothing wrong with money, but Rahu has this energy that gets gripped into the making money at all costs. Got to make money. The fear of not having money, the anxiety around money, about my material security and stability. Rahu actually really, really grips us into that space. Rahu wants to say, do you know who I am? So it's all about my power, my prestige, my position. Do you know who you're dealing with? So Rahu really, really wants to be seen, and it really wants to be taken notice of, and it wants to do it in comfort, and it wants to do it in style. Ketu, on the other hand, is the planet that we look to, or the influence that we look to when we want to understand the karma of a situation, whether it's your past life karma or whether it's the karmic influence in any specific situation. It's an exceptionally intelligent planet. And in its highest value, that intelligence actually pushes us into our spiritual progress, pushes us onto a spiritual journey. It isn't so much concerned about the material wealth as Rahu is. It's more concerned about the spiritual journey and the spiritual wealth. So you can already see now there's that opposition. Rahu likes the money, and Ketu says, where's the spirituality in that? Rahu grips into my fame and my fortune, whereas Ketu's energy is all about non-attachment. So here we have the principle of attachment on the one side and the principle of the non-attachment on the other. You can see that 180 pulling apart, that duality there on that side. Ketu is what pushes us onto an intuitive, a psychic journey. It is the unseen. It is what is unseen. And Ketu seeks spiritual liberation, spiritual freedom. Ketu is what propels us on that journey for enlightenment and spiritual fulfillment. And Ketu, when it's not in a good space, can actually say things that are cruel. It can actually be sarcastic. It can actually be very, very sharp and very, very caustic. And so both Rahu and Ketu have their higher values, and they also have their more base values. But you can see here that if Rahu is gripped into this space that says, I've got to be somebody, and you've got to know who I am, and I've got to get ahead in life, and I've got to make things happen, and pay attention to me, see me, hear me now. And Ketu's influence is more about let go of that and focus on your journey, the past life, the future life, and focus on your spiritual liberation. You can see that they are opposing forces. And these two energies, as they get into being, you can see that they're pulling 180 degrees. This is the duality that we have. So there's the tail and there's the head of this snake. Okay, so now I want to show you where we are. And if you can just see here, the head of our snake is moving into Gemini. The head of our snake is moving into Gemini. The tail of our snake is moving into Sagittarius. So what does that actually mean? Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Don't forget, we're in a Mercury retrograde. So we're going into Mercury retrograde, and Rahu is going into Mercury as the retrograde is happening. So what is that Gemini energy, what is that Mercury energy all about? Well, it's fast-witted, it's fast-paced, it's that chameleon energy. It's all about duality because, of course, we've got the twins. It's fast-thinking, thinks on its feet, lands on its feet. It's restless, it's seeking excitement, it's sudden action, it's opportunistic. Now, imagine that dancing with Rahu, which is that gripping energy, which is sudden action, which is fast pace, which is all about creating here and now. And you can see that they actually start to build each other up. So we have this Mercury energy, this Gemini energy, really, really enhancing the power of that Rahu. And how it brings it out in your space depends on where it is. You know, is it going to bring it out in its higher energy, or is it going to pull it down into got to make money at all costs? Depends on that influence of Rahu, and depends on the influence of Mercury and Gemini in your chart. So now if we look at Sagittarius and we look, so what does Sagittarius about? Well, it's ruled by Jupiter. When Jupiter is our biggest planet, it is philosophical. You know, it really is about searching for truth. It's curious. It wants to know more. It says it as it is. But that Sagittarian energy, it's honest, sometimes to the point of being a little bit sarcastic and a little bit blunt. It is freedom seeking. It is changeable. It wants to see what's over the next hill. And you can see there that need for freedom, that need for philosophical awareness, that need for open-minded, that just plays into the energy that Ketu brings. You can see that Mercury in Gemini really, really enhances the power of Rahu, and that Jupiter and that Sagittarian energy really, really enhances the power of Ketu. So now we've got this built up even higher. This is one of the reasons why we're accelerating here, because these energies, they don't dampen it, they actually boost it up. And so imagine that it's being pushed up and pushed up and pushed up and expanded, because Rahu in its own right is in a space where it is fast-witted and sudden action. Now we combine it with Gemini, and now we combine it with Mercury, and oh my word, we just boost it up. And it's the same with Ketu. We are in a space where we accelerate, we enhance, we boost the power to the nth degree because of the transit that it is going into. So here's an interesting thing for my numerology fans that are out there. How does this relate to the numerology? Well, 2019, as you know, if we add all of that up, 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 9, we get to a 12. We add the 1 plus 2, we get to a 3. This whole energy that we're in is a 12-3 energy from a numerological perspective, 2019, which is one of the reasons why we all say it's so exciting. So where are we in this Rahu Ketu transit? Well, Gemini is that third sign, and Sagittarius is that ninth sign. We add those two together. What do? We get a 12 plus 3. So you can see here that even the astrology, even the Rahu Ketu transit, it coincides, it dovetails so beautifully with that 12-3 that we've got in numerology. And again, it just beautifully interlaces and it just beautifully connects. So you can see this is all working. What is that 12-3 energy? Really, truly at the bottom of it. I know I've spoken about creative energy and spoken about unfolding and about play and curiosity and all of this, but really, truly, what is that 12-3 energy? It's quite simply this: divine masculine meeting sacred feminine, creating the birth of the divine child. And I look at that picture that's on the screen right now, and we've got the divine masculine on the outside, cupping and holding the sacred feminine within, cupping and holding the birth of the divine child. That is what this is. It is about giving birth to that divine aspect within you. We kind of need to be in a space. Yes, we're all in a space of creativity, you know, maybe in our family, maybe in our business, maybe in our hobbies, maybe we're giving birth to a book or a song or something that we are creating in the real physical world. But we need to be in that space where we turn around and say, so what is the divine aspect that I am giving birth to during this period? What is that divine energy that is wanting to be birthed? What is my divine child? What is the mixture of my sacred masculine, my sacred feminine? What is the divine child that is being born? And so, point to really ponder deeply on as we go through. But getting back to that snake, okay. Have you ever seen how a snake grows or how a snake expands? Now, a long time ago when my son was quite small, I was big and brave. He went on this whole thing where he wanted to learn about snakes and he wanted to keep snakes. And after I got over my initial reaction of wanting to run for the hills, I thought, okay, I'll be a big, brave mama. And I said, right, let's learn about snakes. And we got a snake and I helped him to look after it. And how does a snake grow? Well, this is what happens, is that a snake can only grow as it sheds its skin. We understand this, you know, and some of us might have seen a snake skin that has been shed. But before a snake sheds its skin, it gets very listless, it gets very dull. In fact, the colors of the snake on its skin, they become so dull that you think something's wrong with it, because it's like it loses its luster and it loses its color and it becomes very, very dull. And then the snake almost gets very, very lethargic, and the first time it happens, you think, oh my God, there's something wrong with this. This thing is dying. What have I done wrong? What did I not do that the snake needed? And because the snake that my son was looking after was in this listless, low energy, very dull space, of course we were watching it. We were keeping an eye on it to see what was wrong with it. Did it need to go to the vet, or what did we need to do something? And then a curious thing happened. The snake started to bash its head over and over and over against a brick or a rock that I had in the tank. And it was bashing its head. It looked really, really uncomfortable, you know, really rubbing its head over and over and over until the skin on its forehead started to split. And it was at that time that I realized what it was doing. It was splitting its skin. And as it split the skin, and then it was starting to move out. And it's quite interesting that after a snake has shed its skin, it immediately expands. The colors are iridescent. They are absolutely exquisitely iridescent. They are incredibly, incredibly beautiful. But you look at that snake skin and you marvel that that fat snake that has just expanded could actually have come out of that skinny, tight little skin. It looks painful. It looks terribly uncomfortable. It probably is uncomfortable because it's bashing its head against the hardest surface that it can find. But before it sheds its skin, it is constricted. It feels tight because it can't move anymore because it's literally outgrown the skin that it is in. And that is where we're at with this Rahu Ketu transit. Once a snake has shed its skin, it is exquisitely, vibrantly, iridescently beautiful. It is absolutely exquisite with its colors. But this is the process that we have here. Remember, I said to you that Rahu Ketu, that they're opposing forces. They're like 180-degree opposite here. So on the one side, on the Ketu energy, we have it pushing our spiritual growth and accelerating and saying, come on, expand. Come on, let go. Come on, release. Come on, let's actually connect with what is out there and what is in here. There's a lot of energy that's pushing us into our spiritual journey. But at the same time, we are gripped by the concerns of the world. Rahu is keeping us in a space where we are gripped by the concerns of the world. And we are kind of standing in the middle there saying, oh my God, what the hell is happening? Feeling torn, because on the one side, I am so worried about money, or I'm so worried about the practicalities, and I'm in a space of anxiety and despair and depression and so many deadlines and so many things that I have to do. And it's just like, oh my word, overwhelming. And on the other side, I'm in a space where there is this energy that is saying, but that's illusion, but that's illusion. Focus on your spiritual growth, focus on the out-breath, focus on the in-breath. And you've heard the term spiritual psychosis or spiritual schizophrenia. This energy has the power to do that to us. And we know that the only way that we can survive that is to be in a space where we center ourselves between our spiritual journey and between our physical demands, because Rahu's going to be in this space that says, focus on what needs to be done here and now. And what about the deadlines? And what about the money? And what about this? And, you know, we can just end up going down the rabbit hole. And our spiritual side is saying to us, and that means nothing. And that means nothing. And the only way that we can get through it is to be aware that this is duality. This is duality in all its technicolor glory. And we need to occupy that non-dual space. And where is that? That is the center. I say it like it's the easiest thing on the planet. It's something we're going to have to practice over and over and over again. But the good news is we got 18 months to practice this and get it right. Rahu is all about contracting us into the minute detail of the day-to-day. Where's the money? Where's the bond? Do you have enough for this? What about this? It's all about contraction into fear, into anxiety, into stress, into worry, into all those things that demand our attention and grip our energy over and over and over again, 1,000,000 times each day. Whereas Ketu's energy is that space where it's all about expansion. So you can see the spiritual schizophrenia that I'm talking about that says, what do I do? Do I expand? Who's going to pay the bills? Do I pay the bills? How am I going to be in a space where I release? And this is why we call it the snake of transformation, because we're going to hop from one to the other until we feel like we are losing our mind a little bit, until we get to that center, until we get to that non-dual space. The best thing that we can do is observe. Oh, how interesting, how curious. My energy is being gripped by the concerns of the world. Oh, how curious, how interesting. I'm being pulled into acceleration and into growth and into spirituality. But as I say, that is something that we're going to have to practice and we're going to have to work with as we go through it, because this is our reality over the next couple of months. And if we're not careful, we are going to go down that rabbit hole and we are going to lose it. Hold the center, work with the divine breath. And this is where something like primate breathing or conscious breathing is just so beautiful, because if we are supposed to hold that center and we're supposed to hold that sense of who I am, Ketu being all about that inner awareness and that inner growth and that inner knowledge and that inner expansion, and Rahu being everything that is on the outside. And it's kind of like that thing, as above, so below, as within, so without, until we find that space where they both merge into one. So working with the breath, of breathing in and breathing out until we find that space between the in-breath and the out-breath. When we talk about holding the center and being in the non-dual space, breathing in is one aspect of it. Breathing out is the other aspect. And the non-dual space would be that gap in the middle between the breath. So practice when you've got some time between the in-breath, gap, out-breath, gap, in-breath, gap, out-breath, gap. It's the same like with waves on the beach. As the waves come in, there's a pause before the wave goes out. And there's a pause before the wave comes in, pause before it goes out. And we need to be in the gap. We need to be in the pause. I will never forget speaking to somebody who said that we need to find the God that exists in the space between. The Rahu Ketu transit takes us into that space. It says, find the God in the space between. The space between the Rahu, the space between the Ketu, the space between the world, the space between the spirit and your spiritual self, and the space between the in-breath and the out-breath. Does that make sense? It's be in that space where you allow yourself to occupy that gap. Now, how this affects you specifically depends on where these two energies are in your chart. We want to know where is Rahu and where is Ketu in your chart. We also need to know where is Gemini and where is Sagittarius in your chart. So this is one of the reasons why it affects each one of us differently and why it has a different influence on each one of us. What I've spoken about tonight is that blanket energy that affects all of us. But if we go deeper into the core, will be how it affects you specifically. If you would like to know how to deal with this Rahu Ketu transit, get hold of me. Let's set up a sacred conversation. Let's set up a discovery session or a series of sessions where we go into how you can navigate, how you can harness, how you can leverage the power of this glorious, glorious year to your very best benefit. I hope that you have found this useful. Before I go, don't forget we're in Mercury retrograde. I spoke about it on my video yesterday, but don't forget that until we get to the 28th of March, we are in Mercury retrograde. So remember, it affects everything from what I say to what you hear, from what I mean to what gets done, communication, listening, expression. It affects all of those things, trade, commerce, contracts, agreements. So think twice before you sign your life away on anything. Check any contract, double check it, triple check it before you give the go ahead. Before you get upset or worried about what somebody else is doing, pull back and be in a space where you just hold that gap. You just hold that center. And yeah, before I go, back up your computers. Make sure you back up all your technology, because it's not that it will happen. It's just that sometimes Mercury retrograde is guilty of fritzing all of our technology. So be prepared before it gets very much further, and just back up everything. I hope that this very quick discovery of Rahu Ketu, I hope you find it interesting. I find it a fascinating subject. This has just been such a whistle-stop discussion of what it's about. It is obviously so much bigger, so much broader. We could spend years talking about these energies. If you're interested, give me a shout. I would love to work with you. Thank you for watching, and have a great evening. And yeah, before I go, remember this 18-month period that we're going into is significant. It's power, its strength, it's transformational. We are going to be different people at the end of this snake of transformation than we were going into it. It is going to change each and every one of us and level us up. So exciting. So very exciting. But I've said enough, so let me say goodnight. This is Sue Schoning from the Soul Lighthouse. Have a great evening. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Okay, now I've got to turn it off. There you go. Ciao.